No frames
And
dropped, anything.
all right, Tabby, you're going to tweet out a link to that once you get it so I can find it and
I
pop out
will.
that chat.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give it 30 seconds just for people to pop in here, see if anybody joins us.
That's cool.
A little bit late here.
So if we're live, when I go to subscriptions, it should be...
It should. There's a little bit of a delay, but it should be there.
Yeah. What kind of delay are we working with? I think it was like 30 seconds too, between just the chat and what they're hearing.
I'm not sure.
I don't see it.
Working with. I think it was like 30 seconds too. You're probably not subscribed.
I am on both channels. Actually, I think the Sticks is subscribed to YouTube.
All right.
Nice. All right, I just tweeted it out.
Oh, sweet. Go there real quick, and we'll get started.
Here we go. I just want to be able to type in the chat.
Hey, and if you see anybody from our group, make sure you make them moderators, and let's really keep an eye on the chat because with this topic, I'm sure it
From which group you said?
Yeah, or anybody that you know that you think would make a moderator. Make sure you make them moderators, and let's really keep an eye on the chat
so they can control the chat.
With this topic, I'm sure.
From which group you guys want to see something disgusting?
Yeah, yeah. What is that? Is that like a sample?
So it's like 2 weeks old. G
What up, Ranger?
Oh, no. Nice.
This is what happens to G Fuel when you leave it for 2 weeks. It's pretty gross.
That is sweet.
It is.
Dang it. Where is your tweet, Taboo?
What's that on the right? Is that the chat box?
It's about to be a chat box, yeah.
What's up, Ranger?
Meow. Oh, man. I need to do this more often. I get rusty after a week.
Yeah, no doubt.
1 week?
Yeah.
Good thing preachers don't do that.
Oh, wait, I think mine's lagging.
Your stream?
Yeah. Or my video from Skype.
You're good on
Looks fine
on your
Looks
side?
good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
You too.
All right.
All right.
We're good to go. We got chat ready and everything.
Yeah, sounds good. Rangers in here. All right. Hey, this is Jay. Welcome to the Sakred Gaming Podcast, Episode 8. I am really excited about this one. We're going to be talking about some interesting things upcoming on the show. We're going to be talking about the Xbox's move to get more PC-like. Is that how we put it? We've also going to be talking about Black Ops 3 DLC and some changes. The Division, of course, is coming out March 8th, so we'll be talking about that, seeing who's going to be picking that up. Mr. MLGKS is with us on the show. He's going to be talking about transitioning, and I'm not going to say any more about that. We'll let him talk about that. And then, of course, the main topic is we're going to be looking at should people get behind this Black Lives Matter movement? And like I said, this is kind of a controversial topic. We want to keep this very friendly, very respectful, and we appreciate if you guys do that the same in the chat and everything like that. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're not here to bash anybody. We're here to get truth. I know being in a chat with these guys on a daily basis, I'm always learning things from them. And I'm hoping that that's the result of this show, that we learn things about this movement and about everything in general. So let's get into it, though. Enough of me rambling on. KS, you want to introduce yourself? And let's start with an icebreaker. Since you are a preacher, we're going to be talking about any kind of funny preaching stories, preacher stories, heck, even any kind of church story that's funny. You want to share that?
Oh, man, you opened up the gamut. So my name is Anthony, a.k.a. Kingdom Soldier. I have 2 Twitter accounts for some reason. I still haven't figured out how to reconcile that, but I'll figure it out. So I had about a 2 to 3 year YouTube career. I still do YouTube, but I still do follow MLG, still tweet about it. I love watching competitive Call of Duty. Call of Duty is pretty much, this is sad to say, the only game I play right now. It's the only game I've been playing for probably about almost a year now because I cut down my gaming. I am a youth and young adult pastor at my church, and I've been in ministry for a little over 10 years, married with 3 kids. So I would say for an interesting story, Now, are we allowed to talk about other people, or I got to?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, anything.
Okay. So there's a world-renowned preacher that I shall remain nameless. But his wife, and this is probably the biggest blunder I've seen on a stage from church. His wife was talking about prayer and asking for what you want from God, and she said, she said, you're doing these things for yourself, not for God. You're not living for Him. You're living for you. And this was probably broadcast to like millions of people. I know it's been
Wow.
seen about 20 million times on YouTube, but
Oh.
I just,
I saw that.
Yep.
figuring out what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But that is probably one of the biggest, like, take her in the back room
Oh man.
and give her some instruction on just basic doctrine.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Heck yeah.
that was a huge blunder that I saw. I haven't had too many bad ones myself, but I've of course made mistakes like getting up to preach and not knowing what to say, so I kind of was frozen because
No way.
And, yeah.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
That's happened.
KS, what are your YouTube channels?
Oh,
You got the names?
so one of them, I don't even know you'd have to follow my Twitter and find it because it
Okay.
doesn't have like a specific. It's like ABCDEFG, 1, 2, 3. Because
Uh-huh.
I haven't monetized it. I really don't want to monetize it,
Mhm.
and so they won't let me change the name to a personal name.
Are you serious?
My other one, yeah,
Huh.
I don't get the option until I monetize. YouTube doesn't allow me to personalize the channel. So as of right now, that's not personal, but the other one is Kingdom_Soldier. You can look it up that way, or you can just type in Kingdom Soldier XBL.
Awesome.
You type in SO, I pop up on YouTube.
We'll put links to your channels in the video description. That probably won't show up until tomorrow, but if you watch this,
AYM
later-
Power Taboo Lexicon.
Yeah.
Taboo just type one.
I think that's the Kingdom Soldier channel.
Oh yeah, perfect.
That is the old name of my first youth group,
Oh nice.
Really?
Allen A&M Youth Ministry. So it's AAYM, and I made it to post Christian rap videos for the kids to look at
Nice.
years ago,
Nice.
and it ended up becoming my gaming channel when I saw Judgment Awaits on YouTube, and I was like, wait, I could do that.
Yeah, if he can do that, anybody can.
Right?
I think the first video I saw on your channel was the Optic White toothpaste.
Oh my! I can't believe I even made that.
Oh, nice.
I
All
think
right,
about
well,
that
we're
every time I
glad
go
you're
to
on the show,
Walmart.
KS.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to this. You have
you.
been like our number one sought out person that I've wanted on the show. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank
Glad
you.
to be on.
All right, Taboo, you're up next.
Yep. I'm Taboo Lexicon. I've also got a YouTube channel that doesn't really do much anymore, but I set it up to like get to meet people just like you guys here on the screen and you guys in the chat. So I feel like mission accomplished in that regard. And I still do like get ideas for post videos or whatever every now and then, but we'll see. I get a lot of encouragement from you guys in the community to like do more, and maybe I will. Kingdom Soldier, it calls me kind of like a closet preacher, and
This is very true.
and
I'm out of the closet.
not as
Taboo.
much not as much closet as judgment, but it's good encouragement though when he says that, because I actually this is my funny preaching story. It's not really that funny, it's more tragic, but when I was 16 years old, I felt led, I guess at the time, to preach. So I approached like my pastor, and it's like I think I'm supposed to be preaching soon or whatever, and they actually gave me a platform on Wednesday night in front of like the whole congregation. And I was 16, and like I didn't have any public speaking experience or anything like that, so I had what I wanted to say laid out. I was talking about being lukewarm or being cold or being hot, and I was very passionate about what I was talking about, but because I didn't have any public speaking experience, I just choked it. Like everybody could tell I was nervous, which there's nothing really wrong with that. But I was saying a lot and and kind of fumbling through my notes, and I think I got my points across. But it was kind of really a definitive moment in terms of being in front of people, because ever since then I've been in front of people. I sing and I play guitar and do all this kind of stuff in front of people, and now it's not as big of a deal as it was when I was 16. So
Cool.
Is this recorded?
I'm sure if it was burned.
Did you get any kind of feedback from people after it?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of pats on the back and stuff
Support.
like that, and some, I had a real good friend, JB, who he joked on me a long time for the thing,
nice.
whatever. But that's what friends do. But it was all
Oh,
really
yeah.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah. I have people that keep track of every time I say that.
really.
They're like,
Every time you
said
say
it 12 times. Yeah. I'm like, thanks. That's awesome. I'm glad you pay attention to that. All right, Ocho.
Hey, my name is Ocho. I actually have, I think, 3 YouTube channels
What?
and like 3
Whoa.
Twitter accounts.
Whoa, wait.
That I don't
Why
even
am I just
use.
finding out about this?
Yeah.
He
Does
does
one
have-
involve
it's very
a certain
confusing.
president in the past?
Actually, this is a true story. I used to have, it was a domain name called.
Don't blame me. I voted for Bush.com.
It was close to that.
Maybe the opposite.
It was called Ongoing Failure. No, it was Failures of the Bush Administration. It's like President Obama kept saying that during the debates and stuff. It was like, due to the ongoing failures of the Bush administration, and then working for the government, like that was kind of the things that we'd say, like we couldn't get paper from ordering it or something, like the copier got stuck or something. It was like, due to the ongoing failures of the Bush administration, the copy is not working today.
Love it.
So it's kind of a joke in the office, but
That was the Thanks Obama before Thanks Obama became a thing.
yeah.
Now this was while you were working for the IRS.
Yeah.
You're lucky you still have your job.
For real.
I didn't put anything there. I was just hoping somebody would like someone from the Democratic Party would buy it or something.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
Didn't work out. But, yeah.
Nice.
It was all fun humor. Let's see what else was there.
Any good preaching?
preaching stories.
Yeah.
Remember one time I was at church, and I think it was right around the time that Princess Diana and Mother Teresa died.
Oh, no.
And so the preacher was making a reference to like how there's people that are rich and people that are poor, and I think it was a communion talk. So like everybody's all focused and solemn and stuff, and he was saying that Princess Diana had all this money and like she had all this fame, and Mother Teresa had none. Like, so I don't know if it was out loud, but I kind of laughed at that, kind of a pun. But like I was just thinking in my head, like I knew that was coming.
Oh,
Like, when you
man.
start talking about the differences. But yeah,
Nice. Nice.
Love a good pun.
Yeah.
By the way, well, go ahead, Judgment. You're going to introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I want to hear this.
I was just going to say Kingdom is really modest. The channel that he posts to right now, he posts every day. And it's like covering a chapter of the Bible every day. So it's like really good, like juicy, like devotional type material that he didn't mention, but it's really worth watching.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I've seen so many people actually, like Kix and other people on Facebook, commenting about it and thanking you for it. I don't know if it goes to you. I'm sure she does on the actual videos and everything like that, but that's cool. It's because it's something that a lot of Christians struggle with, is that regular quiet time. And this is just kind of aiding in that and whatnot.
True.
All right. Well, hey, I am JA. I'm sure you guys know my YouTube channel because you're on it right now. But
Hit the subscribe button.
yeah, hit the subscribe button. I don't have a donation button. No, just kidding. Well, actually, I don't. Yeah.
Patreon.
Pay your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, there we go. Funniest preaching story. Actually, it's sad to say, but it's mine. And I was up one time, and I was talking about something in the Old Testament, and they were talking about writing in the annals. And I pronounced it with one less N.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
Well,
so
wait,
my wife...
what I don't understand. What did that sound
Right.
like?
You just write it down and figure it out. Yeah, so that was a little bit embarrassing. Like after the second time I said it, I realized it, and my face just went beet red and just kind of moved, just ruined all the momentum and everything like that. So yeah, not too good.
yeah, I seen that YouTube video where the guy was talking about pitching tents.
Yes. Yes, that is hilarious.
I had a preacher when he was praying. He said whacking off one time.
What? While he was praying?
Yeah, it was something. I forget what the topic was, but he was talking about like cutting off arms and legs, like and he was whacking off.
Yeah.
It was just
Did people laugh?
yeah. It was like I was at the altar. Like there's a bunch of us at the
Oh
altar.
no.
And there was a lady behind me who happened to be one of my best friend's moms, and he
Oh.
said that, and I'm just like stone faced, and all I hear is directly behind me her. She's like, and she starts to crack up.
Oh
So we
man.
all lost it.
Nice.
Can we say congrats to JA on 40K? I don't know if you guys said that last week, but congrats on 40K.
Yeah,
like
thanks,
you
man.
have, you are a grinder. You tend to like your channel goes and
He's got
goes,
that
and
app.
then even when you change, you just keep coming back. It's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, kudos.
Great
Appreciate
job.
that.
Consistent on-
Nathan, this is being recorded and it will be posted later. I will have time marks and everything with all the different topics and everything, so it'll make it easier. If you're watching this, you can look at those time marks for the particular subjects and links to everybody's channels and Twitters and everything like that in there. All right, but let's get into the gaming news. Taboo, you want to start us off with this whole Xbox PC thing?
Yeah, so late in the week, this past week, it hit the news that Phil Spencer was talking about how the Xbox is going to be, well, I guess it's going to be a little bit more like a PC going forward. And we've seen the moves, and it's kind of been telegraphed from a long ways away that with the Windows 8 sharing architecture or whatever, and now Windows 10, Xbox runs Windows 10, and their new PC platform is Windows 10. So in essence, they're very similar to one another. So what we're seeing is games like Quantum Break is coming out exclusive for the Xbox One. We talked about this last week or week before, but if you buy it on Xbox One, you'll also be able to get a free download code for PC. And I think that's a really positive move in the right direction. We're going to see things like this. It's kind of controversial because obviously they're pushing Windows 10, and some people don't like that. Some people prefer the previous versions. But also they're pushing it in their own Windows store on PC. So like you can't go to Steam and redeem this code and get Quantum Break through Steam. They're doing it through their own store. And I think that's okay, but there's some it's not as robust as Steam. There's some limitations built in right now that Phil Spencer has said that they are going to work towards eliminating. But I think it's really interesting, like, and there's been a lot of speculation so far and not a whole lot of details, but it seemed like Phil Spencer was hinting towards things like hardware upgrades coming in the future. And I guess the main idea is to get more performance like we get with new generations, but without losing your catalog of games that you spent a lot of money for. I think that's the main idea. So I was curious about what you guys think that might look like in the next 5 years.
Wow. I was just wondering, how would they let you upgrade that, and how would that work and everything like that? That just and would you spend the money on that? That's really interesting.
I think one of the things that going with console gaming is the fact that you don't have to do that. Like the games you're going to get are going to play like whatever hardware you have. The hardware you have is going to work for the duration of the console. Versus PC gaming, like the computer you have now might be obsolete to be able to play a game that comes out next year. Like even with like the Oculus Rift stuff, like you have to have a pretty beefy PC to be able to play that stuff. And like even if you bought one of the pre-sale systems now, if there's no guarantee that system that you get today or I guess will ship a month from now or whatever, that'll work for the whole generation of all the Oculus Rift games.
Cass, your mom worked for Xbox?
No, she worked for this company that worked really close with Microsoft, and so it was kind of so. She landed Microsoft as an account for this company called Unisys, which was like a $40 million deal at the time, and this was 20 years ago. And she managed the relationship between Microsoft and that company. That was her job. So it was a pretty awesome job. That's how I got to like advanced Xbox. But I think,
can you call her up and ask her about this subject?
No. I'll get one for Ocho, but not you two.
I see.
But no, I did want to ask Taboo if you could. I was slightly distracted while you were talking. If you could, in a sentence, describe what Xbox is doing with this PC.
Well, we don't know for sure. It's kind of been hinted at by Phil Spencer from Xbox that Xbox as a platform would grow and evolve in a way that you would be able to still play your existing games as your graphical capabilities, computing capabilities increased. So people are saying maybe you're going to be able to, maybe hardware is going to be modular and you're going to be able to replace components, over the years, or there's a lot of speculation, but no real firm details yet.
Are they saying that you literally would have a PC and a console in one?
Well, because they're so similar already, the Xbox is kind of essentially a PC. just with its own custom operating system. So develop games for.
But it's
Go
the
ahead.
Xbox's lifetime is shorter, right? Like, I mean, does an Xbox last as long as like a good gaming PC?
Not really.
Because wouldn't you have to replace parts? Is that what you're talking about? Like,
Yeah, that's what people
I'm
are
just wondering-
speculating. Like if you maybe not on this Xbox, but maybe in a couple of years they come out with a new one, a new version that's still technically Xbox One or whatever, but it's a new version, and maybe it's got a modular graphics card or something like that. Who knows? Where the system itself can grow with you and the games can grow with the new hardware without you having to lose all the previous games that you've bought for the Xbox One. You know, like your 360 games, you lost those when you went to the Xbox One. They don't really want that to happen again, according to them.
Yeah, because that was not fun.
Yeah.
I guess my concern, I'm still confused as what they're doing. I know that we haven't gotten too much information, but my concern would be if there's any ability for someone to have a different system than me but playing against me. So it's almost like if it was like a PC where I could replace parts and make it better, wouldn't really be fair. If now connection already makes gaming its own frustration, but better connection, you pretty much have a better opportunity. But I guess if someone else was able to add parts to their console / PC and make theirs run a little bit faster or something like that, where they had an advantage over someone else they were playing in a video game, I mean, that would be an unfair advantage in my opinion, but I don't know.
How does PC handle that? Because obviously you have some super rigs out there.
They don't. It's unfair. Like, that's the thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You can't. Like, if Klee has, he spends way too much money on his computer. Hope you see this, Klee.
Yeah.
So if Klee has this like super like crazy system that he upgrades all the time, and then I have my little PC that I don't ever touch. It's out of the box. He has an advantage over me, in my opinion. I don't know if Ocho wants to say something, but even if you, like right now, I have a mouse that was sent to me by SteelSeries, so it's a better mouse. So if I'm playing like CSGO and someone else has a standard mouse, they have a disadvantage. So PC gaming definitely has its pitfalls as a result of that. But everybody has the same opportunity. It's just you got to spend money.
Sure.
And so you could have you think about it, you can have a better monitor, which you can in console gaming as well. Better graphics card, better processor. And so, of course, the game is going to play better, So if they did that with Xbox One, I just think they would take away the standard power and processing power and visual ability of the console.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's possible that I could probably go pro.
Yeah.
If I got a good enough system.
Yeah, if you could hit 120 frames per second, maybe, and
I like the idea
of if hardcore was pro, you could go pro.
Yes, can you talk to Hex for me?
I will.
Talk to
Hardcore
Vandahar. Tell him pro needs to be hardcore.
I like the idea of maybe being able to swap out hard drives a little bit easier. Going to a bigger hard drive. The other stuff kind of concerns me. Plus, like Ocho was saying, I like having this thing and not having to worry about upgrading it and getting the latest optics card, or graphics card and everything like that. So I don't know.
Yeah,
interesting.
And at some point, and it's not very far down the road. At some point, if you're swapping on a graphics card, like, you might just be better off buying a gaming PC.
That's like the whole system.
Yeah,
because they're going to be crazy expensive too.
They're already crazy expensive. Some of them on PC, you can drop $500 on a graphics card easily.
Yep,
easy. Yeah.
I've heard also there's a lot of concern about Microsoft and just monopolizing things with Windows 10 and apps going to Windows 10 and everything like that, and only being able to be bought in the Microsoft Store. I know somebody from, I don't know, I think it was Epic Games or something like that, tweeted out, and they had some real concerns. So it should be really interesting here. It's something that we definitely want to keep an eye on.
Well, and I think that's a challenge of our day, is that we all want everything to be available everywhere. We don't want, we don't want to let anybody be selective about where they offer stuff, and so, the music industry went through that problem where it was like certain artists were like, no, my album will only be available here, or I will block copyright and sue anyone who downloads my album from Napster or whatever. You know, and it's like the music industry's gone through this thing, but now we have programs where artists are like, well, as long as I get a cut. But I saw somebody like Andy Mineo tweeted out that I think he said 3 million, was it 3 million streams of his songs is it equals 3,000 sold albums.
Really?
Yeah. 3 million streams equals 3,000 sold albums. And he's only getting a small percentage of those sold albums, of course. So because of the new way, like with Spotify and stuff like that, you're getting, like, I can have I have every Lecrae album because I have Spotify. I paid $15 a month. Me and my wife can have any album we want. And, but with that, I feel sorry for the artists, kinda. I mean, they're going to get less money every time I play their song. But with the gaming industry, I think it's the same. Everybody, and Microsoft, they're just trying to protect themselves. I mean, I'm not saying that Microsoft money box. I think Microsoft is just trying to protect themselves. As long as they can, they're going to make as much money as they can. I mean, it is annoying. I'll admit it. It would be great if it was available in other places like Steam. But
I think, and they've got smarter people than me working on this problem, I believe. But Microsoft, if they develop Forza 6, which is on the way, and they want to sell it on PC, they're going to sell it through the Windows Store. They're not going to sell it on Steam because Steam's going to want like 30%. So either they're going to have to come to an agreement, or they're just going to have to exist separately. But like, if Steam would say, yeah, we'll carry Forza 6, we won't take a cut. You can carry these games that we carry, and you don't take a cut. From the ones that we have exclusives on or whatever. There might be some kind of middle ground where both can live and be places that people like to shop for either game. But one big thing that I read about a lot, I spend a lot of time on Reddit, and a lot of people complain in the PC gaming community about Steam. They love Steam, but if you have a Steam account, you buy 40 games, and then you violate their terms of service, or they feel like you violated their terms of service, they can close your account, and it's gone, and those games are gone. You don't have access to them anymore, and a lot of people don't like that. So
that's what YouTube does.
Yeah, exactly. So I think having some competition from a big player like Microsoft is a good idea, and I think it'd be pretty cool if they could find a way to compete, but also be not just like, it's so old-fashioned competition to me. Is the way I see it. Like you're talking about today, we want things the way we want them. It'd be cool if they could come to some kind of agreement.
Yeah. All right, so we've got the new name for the next Xbox. Frank Lito said the Money Box. Microsoft Money Box. Greedy Box.
Greedy Box.
From Slays. And Freak is in the house. Freak said, no one is smarter than you, Taboo. Probably all that time that you spend on Reddit.
That's
because he has the most facial
my favorite
hair.
YouTuber.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Facial hair is wisdom.
Yeah, there we go. We are in contract negotiations. Just want to let everybody know to get Freak on the next show, and we're like 90% there. I'm just waiting for a confirmation, and really looking forward to that one. So stay tuned for next week. All right, Ocho, you want to take us into any Black Ops 3 news that you have?
Let's see. Well, DLC came out this week, so we've been playing that. I think that the water map looks kind of fun. It's really colorful. Oh, is it off?
No, I can hear him.
I can hear him.
No, I mean, is his mouth lined up with his...
Oh, yeah. Sometimes he's a ventriloquist, so he just does it on purpose.
Yeah.
Do a lot of kung fu. Maybe that's what's causing it. Yeah, so it's been fun. I haven't played the exclusive list that much, so I've been kind of mixing in with the regular playlist. Still trying to work on the Dark Matter camo, which I think I have 2 more pistols and the knife.
Oh, nice.
So headshots are... I think I have 10 more headshots on the RK5, and then the last one is the fully auto one. I forget what that's called, but still have to work on that one. And
L-Car?
Yeah.
Yes, the L-Car 9, is it?
Yeah.
So that's been what I've been working on lately, and really like the DLC maps. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on, I want to call it the FAL, but it's not. The Shiva. Still stuck on getting headshots with that, because I shoot in the chest, and it's one-shot kill in hardcore no matter where you shoot. You could shoot him in the pinky toe, and it's going to kill them. You can shoot them through the barn, through the shed, and it's still going to be a one-shot kill no matter what you get them. So you have to aim high, and then I always end up missing their faces. But yeah. So what's your favorite map, Ocho? Did you say the water park one or?
Either the water park one or Gauntlet, which is the one that has like the 3 lanes with different map styles. So it has like the urban side, and then the ice is the middle, and then I think the right side is the jungle, well, depending on which direction you're coming from. But yeah, like I think that one might be my favorite.
Yeah, let me give you some advice. If you play hardcore and you go on that map, just stay out of the jungle side.
Yeah,
because everybody lays down in that place, and you can't see them. There's just so much foliage and plants and everything like that. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's definitely really campy, especially when people first get the maps. They're like, okay, well, I'll sit here, and people run by. They don't even know the map. They don't know I'll be here, so it's pretty cool.
So has your connection been okay since? Have you noticed any differences with the DLC maps?
Mine's been a lot wonkier.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, I've had games dropping and a lot more regularly, and just it's been a little rough. And I tell you what, it is a heck of a lot sweatier in that DLC map. Everybody knows that's going to happen. But man, I'm just running into all these 2+ KDs, and everything, and it's like, complete clans playing it. And it's like, you can't even move. I played Skyjacked and literally could not get out of the spawn. They had that thing locked down.
Yeah. And then you had like the 500 level people.
Yes. I was talking about this earlier, but the ICR got a buff. Its recoil got reduced, and that thing I've used it. It's nice. It reminds me of the ACR. You know how smooth that thing fired.
Yeah. Does that stuff actually affect like when you're hardcore players, like recoil and stuff? Like if you aim for the chest, do you notice a big difference in guns when they buff them or nerf them?
I don't think as much, but
okay.
The ICR is a gun that does like 30 damage, so you're right on the brink of being a one-shot kill. So a lot of times it will be a 2-shot kill. So having that will still help you. But,
you can definitely feel the range changes though.
Yeah,
like in hardcore, because like if you like when I use the Vector, is it the Vector? Vesper. When I used it, like it would just melt people almost like cross map, and then they touched it a couple times, and now you can definitely feel the range differences on those, especially the SMGs. They're dramatic.
I think it's interesting, like in the esports world, literally changing the guns changes the guns that they use like instantly. It completely changes. Like every buff, every nerf, it's like a gun will disappear and you'll never see it again because they slightly nerfed it.
Yep.
Wow.
Like the Black Ops 2 PDW, like that was the go-to gun.
Yeah.
It makes things interesting though, because remember in Ghost, like all you would see is the freaking Remington and the the MTAR.
MTAR.
That's the only guns I'd ever see on that.
Yeah.
People started using the Vector. Yeah.
Vector.
Yeah. Oh, Ricochet. Ricochet in hardcore, you can no longer kill the person and steal their care package. If somebody drops a care package, if you shoot them, you will actually end up dying. So if say Chaos, if you wanted to go in and troll in hardcore for some unknown reason, you felt that. Yeah. You would actually die. If you shoot the person that's planning or defusing a bomb too, and he's on your team, you'll also die. Because that's really fun to do. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most enjoying parts of your videos is watching you guys accidentally kill each other.
Oh yeah.
JA, like it's funny. You're and maybe you inherited it from your dad, but you definitely have a little rage in you. Like,
oh yeah,
you should see the stuff that he doesn't
and
post.
Your teammate kills you.
Yeah. Yes. Just last night I was playing and Creamy killed me one off of my wraps, and I was hot. And it was like the third time I've been team killed that game. So I don't know.
That's what I find it actually makes it's entertaining to me. Like when I'm watching your videos, it's actually entertaining because I'm like, this is kind of like Jay is really raging.
We actually did. You kind of inspired a video that we were working on. We were trying to make the most annoying class in hardcore, and we had smoke, thermals, scavenger, and we were playing Combine, and we were just chucking smoke out there and then shooting people with thermal weapons through that smoke and everything. It was great.
Were they rage quitting?
No, they stuck around, but we did have some games on some other maps where they were rage quitting. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
That sounds like a fun class. Even if you use that in core, that class is annoying. Like when you put up smoke. So.
You have to have an LMG too with that.
Oh,
so you
I used to do that on Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
It hated me. I loved it.
And on Black Ops 2, you could have that riot shield and deploy it.
Yeah.
Oh man. Remember? Guess what? I ran into somebody and his clan tag was Worm, and I tell you what, do you remember? Was it the Black Worm?
The Black Worm, yeah.
Yeah, that dude. That was the world's
Trophy
greatest
systems.
camper and everything like that. I ran into somebody and he was playing like that, and I insta left.
Camping on hardcore is probably really annoying. I would imagine.
Yeah,
because you don't see where the person is and you just die. Like that would be pretty frustrating.
Yeah, super, especially when you're going against a clan that really locks everything down and you can't move. That's crazy.
One thing I like about it when going for headshots is like people do camp, and so like you can sneak around them, and they're like you can be around them, like running around them. They're not going to move. There's like this is my spot. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to catch somebody just running by me. And then
I do like in Black Ops 3 that they added the. I don't like it for when I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the game or run to the kitchen. It's a function where you can't sit still.
Yeah,
they'll kick you out of the game. Because I was like, what do you mean you kicked me for inactivity? It was like. And then what I found out and I discovered is that even if you're sitting in one spot, even if you're aiming down sights, you can't aim down sights and not move. Like in the windows on Nuketown, because that's where I would. If anybody wants a long shot trick, a lot of people say go into hardcore to get your long shots, but if you go on Nuketown in either house, you sit at the back and just wait, and people come in the window, you kill them from there. Get your long shots. I'd get my long shots because I think you have to get 10 or whatever. I could get one game just by doing that. Because I'm trying to get dark matter too, but I'm way behind.
Not everybody is like Ocho, man.
Most hours. You should add up one time how many hours of COD you've played since like COD. Astronomical.
Like, I think I reset it on Modern Warfare 3.
Well, it's still available online, right? If you looked up your gamer tag.
Let's see.
Like on the Call of Duty website.
Somebody needs to do that, like in chat.
Ocho on Modern Warfare 3 scared me how much he was on sticks. When I first met him, I was like, dude, you played more domination than like YouTubers. I mean, this is crazy. But
I think I was like level 50 or something in domination.
Yeah, you were higher than a lot of really good players. That was crazy.
Wow.
I got level 50, like number 50, like rank wise.
Dang. All right, I don't got anything else for Black Ops 3. Any of you guys got anything you want to talk about with that?
Mm-mm.
All right, let's move on to The Division. We know that it's coming out March 8th. That's Tuesday. Yeah. So who's picking it up in here? Anybody?
I am.
Pre-ordered it?
Yep.
Now we have a little bet. Are we still doing that wager?
Yeah, I fully intend on winning that.
Yeah. So if the game is good, I have to make a video saying Taboo was right and, basically shout him out. And if the game turns out to be not so good and he doesn't play it, then he's going to make a video and shout me out. Ian, it's like right there. I'm kind of on the edge, but I'm kind of like, I just don't have the time to dedicate this because I think it's going to be really involved. But that's me.
It might be. I played both betas and I was like on the fence whether or not to get it. And I've been watching like news come out about it, and it looks more and more interesting. And some of the DLC was announced this past week.
You were on the. Go ahead.
On the fence.
I know you were on the fence, but you think you're going to win this bet, like you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's a solid game. Like mechanically speaking, it's real solid. And so I was just worried that there's not going to be enough content because that's what we ran into with Destiny after 1,000 hours of playing it. Not enough to do. But in The Division, looks like there's going to be a ton of content. And if you pre-order and you're Amazon Prime member, it's like $47.99. So
yeah.
If it doesn't work out, I'll go trade it in and get $25 back, and no harm, no foul.
6 million people played the beta.
Yeah,
and I think Destiny was like 4.
Yeah.
What would you guys say is it's the most similar to?
Mechanically,
like a Ghost Recon or like what kind of a?
The third-person cover-based thing reminds me of Gears a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it also has that Destiny feel with daily things to do, weekly things to do, and stuff like that, and ranking up and different weapons and everything like that. But I think Ghost Recon 2 kind of has that feel with moving from cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Now, is this going to be like Destiny in that, like you guys, when you guys, I don't know if you guys still do it, but you used to do when you guys would all play together, like you and Creamy and Freak, and and you guys would all play together and try to beat different levels or stuff like that on Destiny.
Yeah.
Like, is this like farming and is like all that is in this game?
You can have four-man fire teams to go through these missions. And one thing we did on Destiny that hasn't been announced on the Division but has been hinted at is raids. And raids in Destiny were 6-man missions. We haven't seen that in the Division yet, but when they announced all their new content, they hinted really heavily at it. And it looks like there's like a tower defense mode that's going to wind up in it later this year. And it looks like there's going to be like a what's it called? Battle Royale, kind of like was it DayZ? If you guys follow DayZ.
Yep.
So looks like it's got a lot of potential to go pretty far. So.
Taboo, I thought I heard them say that coming in April that they're going to have this game mode called Incursions.
Yeah.
That's going to be an end game strike that you do with your squad. So I don't know if it'll be as detailed as a raid and intricate, but it seems like they are trying to get there.
Yeah, it does. And from what I've read about the engine, I forget what it's called, but the engine Snowdrop, I think, is what it's called. It's supposed to be really, really flexible and super easy to develop all kinds of things. So
cool.
Can you pick up health in this game?
Yeah, they're called med kits.
I'm looking at it right now. I have you guys seen where it's worked when you have a game like this that it's humans shooting humans, like Call of Duty, but you have the ability to like get power back, so to speak. I mean, I know in COD, if you run around a corner, you can almost like Halo style regenerate, but Halo has a shield. But this game seems like I was just watching some gameplay. I mean, it looks like you gotta shoot people a lot for them to die.
Yeah.
And then they could like dip around a corner, get a med kit, and come back out and pop you if you don't have a med kit. Like,
yeah, there's like med kits give you health right away. It's like eating, something that gives you health in other games.
Yeah.
But they're consumables and you're limited to how many you can carry. But then there's also like talents that you can develop. It's an RPG, so you can develop these health talents where you can regen yourself or regen your friends periodically, and it's like on cooldown timers and stuff like that. So it's not where you can spam it too often. And once you're out of it, you gotta wait a good, until you pick up some more somewhere.
Yeah, Tabby was constantly picking me up when we played together.
Are you getting it, Jay?
It's like every other game.
I don't.
Yikes!
Man, I was on the fence, but it just seems like it's going to be a lot of work for me. So I'm going to stick with Call of Duty. I'm having a lot of fun still playing that.
Now that I'm asking Taboo these questions, it seems like a very involved game.
Yeah.
But it seems like it would make for interesting content as well.
Yeah.
Like, because you've been able to you figured that niche out for Destiny. I think there could be something similar in the Division where there's consistent content that you can always produce. So.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
Yep.
My biggest thing is I'm not really playing any games right now. Haven't played Black Ops 3 in a while. Picked up Rocket League, which is a lot of fun. But in terms of something to like keep coming back to and play, and whenever I'm in the mood to play, I don't really have anything. So that's been working in the Division's favor for me as well.
I tell you what, I have so many friends that are looking forward to the Division and getting it, and they're talking about it. So I think this game's going to be very successful. So.
Yep, as long as it's not a what was that game? What's the game that came out from Respawn Entertainment?
Titanfall.
Yeah.
Titanfall 2 just announced.
Was it announced?
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Hopefully, there's things that they could have done to the first version, and I'm milk chocolate.
Oh man.
So there's interesting screen name.
Milk chocolate 116.
Darn, I don't even remember what I was saying.
Titanfall.
Titanfall.
Yeah, there's things that they could have changed about that game that could have made it successful. Like the fact that there was really no story mode for it,
Yeah.
that the story mode itself was multiplayer.
Yeah.
That basically, I don't. People and YouTubers have said this, but people don't understand that now these days. I don't know if this is still a true fact. I know it was about 2 to 3 years ago that most of the people that played Call of Duty were not online.
Yep.
It was actually a larger percentage of people that didn't even have Xbox Live at the time, and so they would just play the regular. They would play the regular campaign over and over. Like COD 4, I could play that campaign so many times. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I think Respawn Entertainment, it just surprises me that they had the sales goals. They could see what everybody had played while they were making Infinity Ward games, but they somehow said, let's not put a campaign in this game. And it's probably because they rushed it. It's probably because they intentionally wanted it to come out between COD cycles when there was a bad COD game, and they were like, oh, let's come out with this, and they made a mistake. And it's like, so now you're going to try to convince all of us that this next game is going to be better. They have to literally hit a home run. Like, their beta has to be flawless, in my opinion, for them to be successful.
And I actually have high hopes for Titanfall 2. Do we know when it's coming out? Is there an actual release date?
No.
Okay.
I don't think we have an actual. Yeah.
It had a couple of things going against it. Number one, like you said, was the no campaign mode. That was huge mistake. And I think I did a video about Titanfall, how it was like a $30 or $40 game. It wasn't a $60 game in my opinion. Yeah. But that section of the game that was there was extremely fun and extremely polished, and like connections. Like, I haven't played a game since Titanfall that had better connections than Titanfall. So I'm hoping Titanfall 2, since it's going multi-platform this time around, it'll get some more momentum. Plus, the whole wall running and double jumping thing has been done a lot now, and that was like really new to consoles back then. I think it's got that going for it, and so I'm sure I'll be picking it up.
Do you think, like, I'm looking at Google and it looks like the game is going to come out? Some people are saying this year. Some people are saying in 2017, but they are saying it will have a single player campaign.
Yeah,
but do you before Christmas it's supposed to drop?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you think that because the wall jumping and double jumping, like COD basically, even though AW was not a favorite of some people, they did a better version of Titanfall, in my opinion. Like it was the same game, but there's no Titans running around, and so it was a better version. They almost said, okay, Respawn, nice try. Here's our version of a game where you can jump around and double jump and all that. And so I think that, and now this next Call of Duty, the rumored Bloodlines or whatever it's called, like, I'm really, if they put people back on the ground, I wouldn't complain. I'll just say that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing
I don't think
the next
they will.
Ghost. Is the next Ghost going to be going back in time? Ghost 2? Or no?
The next Call of Duty game?
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be Ghost 2?
I think it is.
I just saw a rumor yesterday or 2 days ago that it was going to be called Bloodlines.
Oh. Oh.
Saw it on Twitter.
If you guys know in the chat, what's the next Call of Duty going to be in? What's the next era? Or what kind of era are we going to see for it?
I'd love for them to go backwards.
Doesn't Reaper have a video on it?
I bet. I think he did. That's why I think that's where I saw Ghost 2. So I guess maybe I'm wrong there. But we won't go into that.
It could be Ghost 2. I mean, it'd be an interesting move to make. But as much as did you guys like it? I'll ask you guys that.
I didn't like AW at all. I did like the way Black Ops did the movement stuff though.
I would go away from wall running.
Okay.
No problem. I'd love to have Black Ops 2 back.
What about you, OJ?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Advanced Warfare. I can't really complain about any of the CODs. I mean,
I was just about to say, you can't. You played so much. You can't complain. I don't know. Like, even the play style with Ghost, I think, was kind of like he died kind of quickly, and I didn't really like that aspect of it. But on the other hand, I did like that, like, you're not shooting people and then they don't die like that. So it's kind of a mixture of, like, the thing that I like about it is also the thing I don't like about it. So like, it felt kind of hardcore, but it wasn't hardcore. But with Advanced Warfare, I like the movement was really good. Like, compared to the Black Ops 3 movement, like, I feel like when I'm executing moves, like, they're not
doing exactly what I wanted to do. Advanced Warfare, I felt like every time I wanted to do something, I could do it, and it felt right. Like Black Ops 3, and I think it's better strategically, but as far as like the movement and like always being able to hit like the same movements, it's not as good.
Did you? I don't know if I agree with the better strategically thing. I feel like sometimes on Black Ops 3 when I'm playing, it's like run and die, run and die, run and die, run and die. Because I'm an objective-minded person. So
Yeah.
I mean, I tweeted out a picture the other day where I had 2 minutes and 7 seconds in the hill. We lost, but all my teammates went positive, including 3 40 bombs, where they were like 49 and 13, and I was like 34 and 23. And the most that anybody else had on my team in the hill was 7 seconds.
Wow.
So literally all I did was run in the hill, run in the hill, run in the hill.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And I guess gaming will, and maybe this will never change about Call of Duty, is that if you go solo, you're basically like screwed.
Yeah.
If you don't have teammates, if you play by yourself. And I'm on the Xbox One, and all of my friends that I used to play with, because they were all in competitive, are all on PS4. I mean, there's literally no point to play on the Xbox One if you're in the esports scene at all. And so, and most of you guys have switched to, of course, Ocho probably has like all of the consoles, but
I don't have a PS4.
Because I do get to play with Ocho on Xbox One, and so, which is weird because we don't talk. Like, it's kind of funny.
It was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and like 1 o'clock in the morning for you.
Like, they're still playing. We text each other. That was a good game.
Somebody asked for me to talk about Donald Trump, and I don't really want to talk about Donald Trump. He's not high on my list of people to talk about, but maybe in a show in the future.
Look at Freak. Look what Freak said.
We'll talk politics next week. Oh man, dang!
That's work screenshot. I'm Giazzoing that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if we're not gonna do politics on this one, I'll just start another one, and I'll just do it like Monday through Friday and do like my own radio show that nobody will listen to.
There we go.
I can talk politics for days.
Taboo being taboo.
All right, let's move on. Cass, you want to talk about your transition that you've had in your life and with gaming and everything else?
Yeah.
The sex transition
and
sex change.
So, whoa. I've always been a man. Ocho's dying. So I had a storied short career in esports. I kind of rose up really fast, and I passed JA. It was really exciting for a while. I had more subs.
like I was standing still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just like
I
just rocketed up from Optic Gaming. Just decided to like me and tweet out my videos and stuff, and that just helped me a lot. And so I became a reliable source in esports. I got myself on like with Puckett and all that kind of stuff 3 or 4 times, and like 20 to 40,000 people were watching that, and so that helped me grow. And so it was an amazing. I'll tell you this: it was an amazing ride. I met virtually. I met probably 80% of the known pro players that existed at the time. They all were interviewed by me. I never, to this day, interviewed Optic members. Not Scump, not Crim6, not Formal. They all follow me. They all have talked to me in DMs on Twitter, but they're very specific about... They've never been on the what was the name of the show, Ocho, that Puckett had?
The Esports Week?
Esports Report. Yeah, Esports Report. So the Esports Report, Scump was never on that, and H-Shot was never on that. Like, those Optic guys are Hex is very particular about who interviews them and when they get interviewed. And so I never interviewed any of those guys, but they always kind of talked back and forth with me, which was cool. And I never did Clayster. He said he was going to do it, and then he kind of stopped talking to me, so it was weird. But it was an exciting time in my life, and I really never wanted to stop. I will say that I kind of low-key was addicted to it. Mm-hmm. I was addicted to the fame and, like, addicted to... I could tweet like "Good morning," and I'd get like all these retweets and favorites and replies, and I mean, I still am getting over close to 1 million impressions on my Kingdom Soldier Twitter a month, which is crazy. But it used to be so much more than that, and it was like pro players tweeting at me and wanting to talk to me, and It was a very and I created a persona for myself where I never cussed. I talked about someone negatively one time, which was a mistake, and I apologize for it. But I just tried to be Christ-like in my character in that scene, and I think that's actually one of the things that people respected about me. There came a time when I had to decide if I was going to continue doing it or not. I got basically offered full-time at my church. I was working part-time. I got offered full-time to be a full-time youth and young adult pastor. And I got a huge bump in my salary. And when I say huge, it's not as big as you might be thinking, but it was big enough to help me out and make me not go get another job. And so I felt like I owed it to the church, and I felt like God was really pressing me to make some decisions about cutting in my life. And where I was spending a lot of time, and we're talking about probably almost 30 hours a week, was in gaming. I used to have a series called Best Competitive Vids, where I would put out the best 3 competitive videos of the week, and that meant I had to watch at least 20 to 30 videos every week, and then pick 3 of them. Yeah. And so that became labor intensive. And to stay in the Call of Duty scene right now, you have to be on Twitter all the time. You have to watch everything. Because if I miss a roster change or something like that, it's like everybody's tweeting at me like, Kingdom, when are you going to do a video about this roster change? Because roster changes grew my channel a lot. And then I kind of said to Goalie, my producer for my esports talk show, The Stick, I told him that by the end of 2015, which was last year, I wanted to be done. I didn't want to be on the show anymore. After basically yelling at me because he was so sad. He thought it was going to ruin the show and everything, which made me feel bad. You know, as a Christian who, if Goalie ever watches this, I of course have always had an intentional missional purpose for even my relationship with Goalie. When I met Goalie, he was on a Christian esports team, but he raged and cussed a lot and he had a very negative outlook on things. And so me and him just became friends. We bonded. He's a lot younger than me. And we just worked together, and it was Kingdom and Goalie like for a good 2 years. And we built the sticks and all that. And so when I made the transition, I didn't quit cold turkey. I did as best I could to replace myself. I grabbed Landon and some other people to come on the show and be on the regular Tommy Esports. And I wanted to share this because I know that somebody watching, or one of the people on this panel, plays video games more than you're supposed to. Like, literally, the Holy Spirit will sometimes tell you to stop playing, or don't play video games tonight, or I need you to take a Sabbath of gaming, or I need you to, for Lent, give up gaming. And for some of us, if we felt like God was telling us to give up gaming for Lent, we would like look at him and be like, I'll think about it.
I'm not sure I'm hearing you right, God.
And then we wouldn't do it. And for me, that's where I was.
Out.
I was being consistently disobedient. And what ended up happening, unfortunately, is that I really just had to take a sharp left turn and stop. It did affect the show, which is why randomly I still dabble on my other Twitter. And I also, I did an interview of Hitch a couple weeks ago, and that helped the channel grow a little bit, helped the sticks get some attention. And I will randomly probably do a 1v1, like an interview like that, maybe once a month, once every other couple months. But I can't live in that community. And I still game, probably about 10 hours a week. I still play because I love Call of Duty. I still watch. I was watching COD World League matches today when I was sitting at home eating like McDonald's or something. I was watching because today's Sunday, so I'm allowed to eat like junk. Because for Lent, I can't eat McDonald's. So today I got like one of those bacon Dijon sandwiches, and it was good. Yeah, it was pretty good. Artisan bun. But sometimes God tells you to move on. He tells you that you're gonna have to let go of that because I'm trying to put something else in your hand, and if you don't let go of it, I can't put anything in your hand. It's closed because you're holding so tight-fistedly to this thing in your life. And for me, it was being Kingdom Soldier. I mean, just to be honest, that's what it was. And I will say, like, Jay, when me and you got to do that interview at that church, that was amazing. That was, I I didn't realize I could have had an entire like Christian gaming. I could have been more missional with it, and I didn't realize that. And that was, of course, because I didn't want to give it up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to lose any of my notoriety and any of my subscribers. And now I switched over and I upload every single day. I upload a chapter of the Bible. I'm 66 days into the year, and I've uploaded every day this year so far. And I'm just trying to be, and I get a lot of people coming from the Kingdom Soldier over,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of gamers that, a lot of my comments are, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, but I like your videos, And
Yeah.
so I'm very pleased with what God's allowed me to do on YouTube. I'm very pleased with the fact that he helped me grow this large pond of people. And then when I moved over and started a different channel, a lot of them kind of just came over, and they call me Kingdom in the comments a lot. I get called Kingdom. So I just wanted to encourage you guys that, and I see somebody saying about balance. I just want to encourage you guys that sometimes I'll say this to Kaylani. Yeah. Sometimes we try to balance, but God's actually telling us to walk literally over to one side of the teeter-totter. He doesn't even want us to, because that's the lukewarm straddling the fence. Sometimes he says, I need you to go over there for a season. I need you to step away from this because you don't realize how much of your life it's taken over. My preaching has improved since I changed. I'm spending more time in the Bible, of course. It gave me the opportunity to do this daily series, this one chapter every day, which kids from my youth group and some of the young adults in my church are watching and participating in, and it's just going great, And so,
what about your wife and the relationship with her? Where how'd that play into it
in gaming?
Yeah.
So, I did make some money. I still am sponsored by G Fuel. They still pay me a little, very modest amount of money once a month because my impressions on my Kingdom Soldier account and the sticks is still a thing. And so G Fuel still helps me out. But I also was getting a lot of YouTube. I got up to a good point with my YouTube views where it was extra money. It was enough to like pay my babysitter for 2 weeks. And so my wife, it didn't bother her. And I always, and I think I used to tell you guys this back in the day, I always would not game until my kids were in bed. I will say this much, and you're just now making me think about it. My wife and I didn't have a lot of time together when we used to do that, when I lived that lifestyle. Because at night, she would go do her thing and I would do my thing. Now, we watch Netflix, we hang out together. It's a different, we've watched so many shows, it's crazy, but it's just because I've had to learn that sometimes you just got to put down the sticks if God tells you to, and I felt like that's what he was telling me to do. She's always been supportive. It's just, my wife is kind of she knows that it was missional. She knows that, and she watches all my videos now. She watched them back then. I didn't know this, but for half a year, she was checking my Twitter every day. She would look at all my tweets on Kingdom Soldier and see what I was tweeting about. And if I ever slipped or did anything like uncharacteristic of me, she might ask me about it, and remind me of who I serve and who I'm supposed to be.
That's cool.
But she's very happy with the videos that I make now. And our relationship is probably better than it's ever been. I mean, it's,
Awesome.
we're waiting for, there's a Lego game that's coming out that we want to really play. I don't remember which one it is, but we like playing like Lego Star Wars, Lego Harry Potter. We played through all of them. So it's pretty cool. I'm just thankful to God for loving me enough to convict me, and to reveal to me when I was getting caught up in the fame of. I fight to avoid that in preaching. I fight really hard to avoid that in preaching, and as a minister, at a large church, but. I didn't realize in gaming that I was becoming popular and loving it. It was, I actually fell in love with the fame and not fortune, but the fame and the notoriety I had in the community. So
it's easy, and I could especially see that in your case because esports and everything. I mean, it's wildly popular. People are fanatical about it, and and that's why you just exploded there. And you could see that, people recognized you and they were shouting you out on other people's channels and everything like that. So I could see how that would be such a draw and to stay in that and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you have, we don't realize when we're starting to idolize things or people, but I mean, I really was like giddy when like Nadeshot commented on my video. I know you guys, Ocho and JA, remember because this is when I had quit for a month, and then I looked at my channel. I was like, why do I have 1,300 more subscribers? I haven't uploaded. And it was like one day. I mean, and then I looked at my Twitter and I'm like 800 more followers. Like, what is going on? And it was like Nadeshot commented, and that was back when comments meant something. When they would show up on someone's YouTube channel that they were commenting on other videos. And so the fact that Nadeshot commented, time somebody went to Nadeshot's channel, they saw the comment, went to the video, and that video actually just became my first 200,000 view video, I think, last week.
Wow.
I don't have the Disney, multi-million,
the Pixar,
the Pixar multi-million views of JA. But I really got giddy. And when Hex tweeted out that Nadeshot just tweeted, I enjoy your content. And this is when he had like 600,000 followers. Like, I literally was like, oh my God. I was like one of those kids that, winds up in a game with Nadeshot, and I didn't realize that's cool to be impressed by somebody. But I didn't notice that I was starting to idolize the fame that these guys had. And then once I had some of that, I mean, all I cared about was Twitter followers and YouTube subscribers and how many people are watching my videos.
Yep.
Who
it
am I
consumes you.
Yeah. It's all consumed.
It can consume you.
I'd like to jump in for just a moment, Kingdom, because you said it got to where maybe it wasn't as missional as you wish it had been, looking back on it. But I will tell you, and maybe perhaps unintended consequence from you doing what you do. I don't know if you even remember this, but a couple of years ago when I was getting my start on not Facebook, on kind of a big deal on Facebook too. When I was getting my start on YouTube, I started to connect with some of the guys in the original incarnation of the Sakred gaming community, and you and Hitch and Fatty were doing a show on Twitch, and it was like top 10 community videos or something like that. And you guys would watch them, and then you'd rate them, and and you'd comment on them, what was good about them, what was bad about them, or whatever. And you picked one of mine, and I was like I guess it was 10. I'm not sure. But so you guys gave me feedback, but it also at that time kind of like juiced my channel a little bit. And so I went from, just a handful of subscribers and grew a little bit. And that coupled with, I posted a video on the Sakred channel as well. And seeing those Twitter mentions come through is like just very motivational. So that was, you might not even known you were doing it at the time, but it helps me get my start. And that's awesome. Here today talking to you guys.
Awesome. It's funny because I used to look at JA like, it was such I can't explain the inspiration it was when like JA, when you had like just like 1,300 subscribers, way back in the day. And I was like, wow, this guy's so unashamed of the gospel. Like this dude is unashamedly Christian and unashamedly a video game player. And you've always stuck to that. You've never gotten to a place where you're like, no, I'm gonna stop gaming because I'm getting ordained soon. It's like you've always stuck to those early convictions that you had, and you've always had this. You kind of modeled for me reaching out and caring about smaller channels, and that's why I never ever stopped doing that. I still to this day DM people all the time, watch their videos because they send me messages or emails. And that was something you taught me, and it's kind of like discipleship if you really think about it. I mean, it's just, and that's what you did for me. Like when I go back probably once every 6 months and watch that video that I uploaded on your channel. I was playing Black Ops 2 on not Raid. What's the map with the club Plaza? And I was giving tips about it's like my MSMC class. Or something.
Yeah, it was class setup.
But that really helped my channel, and it was like you just had this. I see somebody. They're a believer. They make good content. Hey, you want to come on my channel? It was like you always had that just that open door policy. And I think that's why, and I've said this before, I think that's why God has intentionally kept your channel growing. Like you've never fell off. Like through switching from Call of Duty to Destiny, it doesn't really matter. Putting your dad, your son, like wasn't that you that wore an Iron Man mask in a video?
Yeah.
Whatever you've done, God is like, it's almost like, when it says in the Bible, it's like, everything you put your hand to is blessed. And God, I think, even our lives. And so Taboo, while you may have received something from me and Hitch and Fatty, and I remember what you're talking about is that I actually watched hundreds of videos to get down to those 10. So
wow.
You were picked out of I think it was almost 200 videos. But
it was a Titanfall video too, which is funny.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. You must have. Well, I don't want to say I should type it in the Skype chat. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. But basically, the reason why I say you should be a preacher, you have a good voice for it and a good voice for commentary. And it's why when I went to your channel, the first thing I told you was like, why don't you upload here anymore? Like those morning things you used to do, like that was cool. I would watch this every day. It's so soothing. Like just you reading scripture. It was cool. But I think that don't short sell yourself, and I will probably keep calling you a preacher until you start preaching.
I appreciate it.
That's kind of interesting too, with that story you told us earlier about feeling a calling.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Hey, well, we're already 10:16 and we haven't even got into our main topic. Yeah.
Wow. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, here we go. Let's preface this a little bit, all right, guys, because we already saw some stuff in the chat that was just need to be in there. All right, we want to keep this respectful, and I don't know about you, but I'm not here to get my point of view across. I'm here to learn and get some other perspective that maybe I don't have. So I hope that you guys look at this in the same way, and just please don't go crazy in the chat. I don't want to say any name calling and everything like that. And any moderators, if you see that, don't be afraid to kick these people out of here, because we want to keep that out of here and everything like that. But I want to talk to you guys about Black Lives Matter, because this is a movement that I'm hearing more and more about. I'm seeing Christians embrace it and call for us to embrace it. I'm also seeing Christians saying it needs to be refocused a little bit like that. And so, I want to get your opinions on that. There are some things that I see about this movement that I want to embrace. I mean, when I see, little kids in my videos talking to me and everything like that, and I think about some things that they might have to deal with, I want to embrace this movement. There's also some things when I go to the website, though, that I struggle with. And I feel like if I embrace this movement, I'm going to have to embrace those things as well. And I just can't with my faith. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle here. And kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Chaos, when we were talking, there is no place in the middle. You either have to declare, and I think it's more so for Black people. You better declare with this. You better stand for this seriously, or Whereas I'm going to be labeled, if I don't support Black Lives Matter, I'm going to be labeled maybe a racist or something like that. If I do support it, I'm going to be labeled a race baiter or something like that. I don't know, what labels I'm going to take, but I'm kind of stuck in the middle here with this issue, with some things that I don't like. I see some potential with Black Lives Matter. I think it's kind of moving in a direction that causes me some concern, but let's talk about it. What are you guys' thoughts about Black Lives Matter? Do you support it? Should Christians support it? What do you guys think?
So let me see if Taboo and Ocho have something to say before. I have a question on the tail end of your question, but it may change their response. So thank you, Lone Ranger. No chocolate vibes too much. Let me, and I want to address that, Nick, what you just said, because a lot of people say that. It should say everyone's lives matter, all lives matter. But I just want to see what Taboo and Ocho may have to.
I'll just say something real quick, and I've got other points to make too later on. But you know how every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square? Just because you say Black Lives Matter does not mean all lives don't matter. So, I'm perfectly okay with somebody saying Black Lives Matter or any other color lives matter. And I don't think saying that means in your heart that other lives don't matter. So that's all I want to say on that right now. What you got,
Okay.
Ocho?
Or like if you're like a certain type of cancer doctor, it doesn't mean that you're only against this type of cancer. It's just you chose to focus your energies into fighting like maybe breast cancer or prostate cancer, but that doesn't mean like bladder cancer is okay. It's like that's where you chose to focus your energy on something that people need. And actually, I had before we started talking about this for doing it for the show, I had one kind of way I was thinking about Black Lives Matter, and then looking at the website, it was kind of surprising that there was all these other topics behind it, which it was what I would think of. It was mostly the like police violence and what they call it, institutional violence against Black people, and like obviously none of us are. I don't think anybody is really for that. Even like when you look at the cases they were kind of basing their movement on, it's like sometimes they were criminals, sometimes or suspected criminals, or like sometimes those people that were arrested under suspicion, which maybe they didn't do anything wrong, and they were treated differently somehow, which ended up in their death. And maybe that was because they were Black and weren't given the same opportunity someone else had. It was definitely different seeing, like, kind of reading through their website, and it was like there's definitely room for like agreement for a lot of the things that they talk about. Like just looking at the website now, it's like diversity and globalism, Black women, Black villages, restorative justice, unapologetically Black, collective value. Like, I mean, it's mostly about helping Black people overcome certain things in society, which I think that's a good thing. Sometimes the way they do it, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
So, that was a really good analogy, by the way, Ocho, about cancer. You know, if I did a lung cancer rally, nobody would say, well, what about breast cancer? You know, or what about prostate cancer? They would be like, yeah, that's good for you. Get rid of, you know, I mean, we have a whole, like, what is it, a month dedicated to breast cancer awareness. And so, specifically because of the number of people that it kills, that's basically the Black Lives Matter. You know, the reason why African Americans speak up for injustice in general is just because there is a disparity that does exist. Now, is there also a disparity between the percentage of African Americans that commit crimes and the percentage of white Americans that commit crimes? Well, yeah. And I think Jay and I talked about this like a year ago. But there is also conditions. There's conditions that created that, you know. So, and people for some reason don't like it when people go all the way back to like slavery and stuff like that and segregation. But it wasn't as long ago, I think, as people think. It's like our nation isn't 1,000 years old, and so going back to slavery is like great grandparents. You know, it's not as far as people think, and so when only that long ago you separated a man from his family and you made women raise their children, it's like it's not a mystery that hundreds of years later we're still seeing Black women raise most of the kids in the Black community. And even on Sunday mornings we have this thing called Sunday morning widows, where the women and the children come to church, the dads stay at home. It's like there's this non-involvement in the raising of kids. And I said this to my wife the other day. I said, look, the most important message that I will ever tell anyone, and I just told this to my babysitter's boyfriend who has a kid, and he's talking to me about, well, I want to move back to the hood. He got out of a bad situation, bad environment. I want to go back there and help, and I want to help people advance themselves and be better. And I said, look, the most important thing you can do on this earth right now is raise your son.
Yeah.
If anybody that's a dad, I mean, I guess that's just me and Jay, but you don't have kids, right, Taboo?
Yeah,
Tabby does.
I got one.
Okay, so the most important thing we can do, like that's our first church, that's our first priority. That's God has ordained us to take care of those children. And one of the biggest ills in the Black community is we aren't involved in their lives. I grew up without a dad, you know, and so it wasn't until I met my uncle that I saw an image of a Black male who went to work every day in a shirt and tie and came home and ate dinner with the family, and we sat down at the table. And that changed my life, seeing someone loved his wife for 30-something years now and cared about his kids. And for me, it was so different. It changed my whole perspective. Mm-hmm. The Black Lives Matter movement was born out of civil unrest. You know, it was born out of a desire to see changes made because, and I really hate to say this part, but you guys can chime in at any time or let me know if you think, especially this, it's true. But since we, we should never get rid of cops if anybody's saying that. But, you know, this didn't start becoming a real big problem until we had a black president. Something happened in our nation when he got into the White House. In the last 8 years, there's been a steady climb, an increase of animosity, and just, we have a racialized society right now. Yeah. Everybody's scared to say black or white or Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. It's like everybody's thinking in the context of race right now in America. Trump is distracting us very well from that. That's he is entertaining the world right now, and everybody's kind of putting the Black Lives Matter stuff to sleep. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't want to see us. It's one of the things I appreciate about JA. I don't want to see us sweep this stuff under the rug again and leave it quietly under the rug for another 30 or 40 years, and then it's going to come back up, and we're going to have another, like, you know, Rodney King was 25 years ago to the day on Thursday.
Really? 25 years?
25 years on Thursday. We had never seen anything like that when Rodney King happened. Like, the country didn't even know what to do. And now with the cell phone, we're kind of screwed. We don't even have time to investigate. You know, the minute you see something, 2 million other people have seen it. Mm-hmm. And it makes the Black Lives Matter movement strong. But the reason that I've never tweeted it out. I've never tweeted Black Lives Matter. You know, I've responded to tweets. I've involved myself in conversations with people that are a part of the movement. But the reason why I've never gotten myself involved is just because there is a component of it that is uncontrolled. And I'm like you, Jay. I'm kind of like standing here in the middle saying this going way over here is wrong and going way over here is wrong. And this is the reason why our country is divided, is because there's a middle ground that none of the people that have the passion and the power to do something are not willing to come together. Mm-hmm. We are, but we're a couple of guys with 21 people watching us on the internet. So, and
21 hype.
when a black journalist that is educated and intelligent and patient and calm goes on, you know, Fox News and talks about his perspective of the Black Lives Matter movement, there's like this almost inability to accept that as truth and fact. And for the black person as well, they're saying, you're wrong and I'm right. I'm trying to get you to see that I'm right. And the Fox News analyst might be saying, you're wrong and I'm right. And I brought you on here to show people that you're wrong. Yeah. And it is, it's a rough environment. I told my kids on Thursday, and I'll kind of let somebody else chime in a little bit, but I told my kids on Thursday, if Rodney King happened right now, we're talking about 20 police officers watching one person get hit 56 times by 5 cops. And those 5 cops got off. Mm-hmm. If that happened right now, it would be, it would be scary on some of our high school campuses, because what happened when Rodney King happened is it wasn't a whole bunch of old people that started those riots. It was kids. It was a bunch of teenagers that started pulling people out of their cars and beating them. Senseless, stupid violence that really made people forget about Rodney King. And then all they're paying attention to is all these black kids that are literally just deplorable violence that they're committing. And so I'm not afraid. I'm just trying to prepare my students. And I told them, I said, look, I know that it's not the cool thing to run away. Everybody these days, when a fight breaks out, they grab their cell phone and they start capturing video so that they can upload it or post it on Twitter or put it on WorldStar or 30-second fights or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I told them, I said, go run away. I said, what did the disciples do when Jesus got arrested? I was like, they did. Like, they literally they rolled out on Jesus. And when he came back, he didn't blame them. He didn't talk negatively about them. He just told them what their mission was and what they had to do next. And sometimes the best thing you can do is get away. People have, I had that kid shot at my church 2 weeks ago, got shot in the chest over a hair pick. A freshman in high school had a gun and pulled it out and shot him in his chest over a hair pick. Praise God he survived. But you don't know the environment. There's so many weapons and there's so many kids that get them so easily that you don't know when something is safe or unsafe. And so my question I was going to ask you guys in the beginning, after my rant, in your opinion, is Black Lives Matter as a movement, based on what you've seen on the website, all that kind of stuff? I know that some of the guiding principles are, a little off from maybe your doctrine, but is Black Lives Matter as a movement inherently wrong? Say it's inherently a bad idea.
What do you guys think? Taboo, Ocho?
I'll go. So I have a firm belief that the nuclear family is incredibly important to the success of our nation, success of every race that lives here. And one of the what we believe sections on the website was under Black villages, and it says they're committed to disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. And, so, like, the goal, in my opinion, is noble, to fight injustice and to fight these horrible things that do happen sometimes. But the idea that breaking up, disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family structure, which I would argue is a biblically prescribed structure, I think is dangerous for the country and our people. We talked about Larry Elder a little bit before the call, or before we went live. And he cited some statistics. He said in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Black children were more likely to be born to an intact mom and dad family than white children. Yeah. And then he blames it on the increase of the welfare state. He draws a parallel between the 60s when we implemented welfare. Like he called it a neutron bomb dropped on the people of the country. And he says now Black children, 75% of them are born out of wedlock. And I forget what the white percentage was, but it was like 35 or 45. It was high too. And he said that's the number one problem affecting our communities right now. That's why he said more than race, income level is what dictates violence and jail time and poverty. It's not your color, it's your income level. And how that affects your family structure affects that more than anything. So if Black Lives Matter is going to operate under the assumption that disrupting the Western nuclear family is the right way to go, that's something that's really hard to get on board with.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I tell you what, Ben Carson was talking about Black Lives Matter, and that's something that he pointed out. He said their focus is, he doesn't agree with where they're focusing at. And he said, he pointed out that, he gave all these statistics about, and I wrote some of them down, about, kids growing up without a dad, which I grew up without a dad. I know KSU did. And he said that they're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crimes. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and they're 20 times more likely to end up in jail. And I think we're seeing a lot as a result of this. And so I'd love to see Black Lives Matter kind of move towards this, towards this goal, and take this on. I understand the fight against injustice, because it's tough to take. It's tough to swallow when you see it. I mean, I can't grasp it. I can't understand it as well as I think you guys can. But it's hard to get behind that movement. So are they wrong? What was your question, Cass?
I said, are they inherently wrong? So, like, is inherently, like, are they at the core? If you strip away what they've done and what they're trying to do, I guess going to the core of their mission and purpose is having a movement like Black Lives Matter. Is it inherently wrong? Is it something that we can look at as Christians and say, it's almost like lying. Lying is inherently wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say that it's inherently wrong. I guess my thought is there's a better focus, maybe.
Yeah. there's a better way to do it. Go ahead.
And also I hear this comment a lot, and it's where my brain goes when I see them like protest a shooting, like an officer involved shooting or whatever, that maybe we don't have all the facts to or whatever, and I'm fine with their voice being heard, but like Chicago gets brought up a lot when this conversation comes up, Black Lives Matter, and Chicago statistics come up a lot where there's all kinds of like black on black murder, homicides in Chicago, and you're like, they're looking at these high profile officer shootings. Can't they be a louder voice in these neighborhoods where this is happening every single day, you know?
Yeah.
Is that addressed? I mean, do you see people talking about that, or like encouraging communities to get away from that?
But here's the problem. Taboo said it. It's the poverty level. When you have a concentrated area of poor people, it doesn't matter what color they are. You know, you have a concentrated area of poor people. Crime is going to be increased. Their conditions, the families are going to be a little more, and sometimes it just depends. But I think the reason that the Black Lives Matter movement is addressing the larger like injustices that you can see on a grand scale is because we don't, and I mean, I'll just be honest with you, we don't know how to fix the Chicago type stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't. Like, we know that there's ways to fix like the injustice when it comes to like police brutality and stuff like that. We can fight for it. It should be illegal. Unfortunately, we've seen cases where people have basically been blamed for their own murder. Well, look at you, look where you were, look what you look like. You know, it's kind of like, and there's the black community. I mean, I'll say this and people may not like it, but it's something that Clee kind of alluded to when he was on the show. Most black people are just as scared of like a young group of like thuggish looking black men that just like a white person would be, or an Asian person, or a Mexican American. Like most black people are just as afraid because of what you talked about, people getting shot and all that kind of stuff. And so part of the problem is that because there was this huge generation where these kids weren't being raised, they have the freedom to do what they want. It's unfortunate, but this is one of the problems that people have said about our nation is, why don't we wronged these people for a long period of time, and the only solution we came up with is affirmative action and welfare, but that's not necessarily, education has always in most countries been the greatest tool to free people from poverty, and is literally getting them education. And go look at a school in Chicago. Why are we allowing it to stay that way? Chicago can't get funding from the government, from the national, from the national government. Like there as a state, it's really hard to work there, and I just can't imagine being in that situation where teachers don't even want to teach. They're scared for their lives. Like, they have veterans that are now on certain street corners so that people can go to church. They line up, and they're risking their life because there's people literally selling drugs, and there's gang fights and stuff on the block where people are walking to church. And there's these guys that have said, we're going to make sure these ladies can get to church and these people can get to church. But the federal government they only help if it gets out of hand, like the LA riots in 92, when almost 20,000 military personnel went into LA. But when it's just black people just shooting each other, it's like, hey, and in all honesty, it used to be the church that used to be the vehicle that would help, that would lift people up. But with the whole thing of mega church now, that phenomenon, you don't have a lot of resources when you're a smaller church these days. You don't have the resources necessary. Like my church, we give huge scholarships to our high school seniors when they're going into college, like upwards of $3,500 a year scholarship. And that's for every student, whether it's 20 or 30 or 40. And we give continuing ed. So you go to get your master's, we're going to give you a scholarship.
Wow.
Most black churches do that. But in the communities where the church is smaller, they're only able to give like $500 because, and what a lot of people are doing is leaving these smaller, like the Hilltop, where I used to be a youth pastor, which is pretty much the worst neighborhood in Washington. It's a black neighborhood in Tacoma, and I used to be the youth pastor there. That church, I didn't get paid as a youth pastor because they didn't have enough money to pay me. And their scholarships were tiny. I got one from them when I went to college. And now that I came up here to this mega church, what I've noticed is there's at least 30 people from my old church that go here now. And this is 20, 30 miles away. But the reality is these larger churches that have coffee bars and have nice places that can take care of your kids, not a room in the basement, you know. They have a nice looking building. People expect more from churches these days. Now in your area, Jay, it might not be the same, but in the city, and in urban communities, people want these larger style churches. And so those little churches, it's hard for them to be a vehicle for change in the community. It's not as easy as it once was.
I want to talk about that. All right. Well, and I want to go back to Chicago because I grew up in a suburb of Chicago. Yeah. And my class size was over 1,000 in my individual class. And it was scary. I mean, and that's why my mom and dad moved. We were living in a trailer park, 600 trailers, you know, all around us. I had 600 of my best friends all around me. But, you know, I was starting to get drawn into that, into some things that I shouldn't. And my mom and dad moved us to this little podunk town in Ohio. And it was just amazing, the difference, though. Yeah. I mean, it's desperate there. But, all right, let me ask you this. Because I see these shootings, and I see it seems like one side wants to just come out firing, and no matter if it looks like, kind of Ocho, you were talking about this, if it looks like one side's wrong or whatever, they just want to come out firing, and all cops are horrible and blah, blah, blah. And then the other side just wants to turn a blind eye to it. You know, can we say justice matters? You know, I know all lives matters and everything like that. Justice matters is taken, but can we look at each individual case, and can the church get involved in this? And if it is a wrongful shooting, can the church address this? I don't think the church is willing to. I don't think Christians are willing to. But why not? You know, why is the church turning a blind eye or going along with the sensationalism and doing that? I mean, why? I don't know. You know, we're talking about what can change here.
Yeah, I want to hear Taboo's response to why you think the church can't or is not.
Up until about a year ago, I served on the advisory board at my church, and I've heard conversations not about Black Lives Matter, but political speech in church, and they were very afraid to cross any lines in church for political speech because they have a 501c3 classification. They're a nonprofit, and apparently you're not supposed to do the whole political thing if you're a nonprofit like that. So they were very hesitant to tackle issues, to discuss things like gay marriage or whatever. They eventually did talk on gay marriage and the biblical perspective, but I think that probably plays into it. If you got a small church, like our church is small, it's grown a lot over the last few years, but it's small compared to a lawyer that the ACLU might send your way, or it's smaller than a team of auditors from the IRS, Ocho. But so like they might be playing it safe, you know. Like if you have a conversation, if you sit in a room with these people at my church, like they'll talk it out all day long. But from the pulpit and like giving direction like that. Very
Can you pause on that, Taboo? Do you think that's the right decision to play it safe? Is that what we're called to do? Like,
I can't speak for the church, but from my own opinion, I think a for-profit church could survive just as much as a non-profit church could. So if you got to lose your non-profit status, if it's the right thing to do, it might be harder. But I mean, we serve God.
It's kind of interesting.
Like my 501c3 donation goes away, I don't really care that much.
Really.
You can't lose. You can only lose your status. My pastor articulated this because I don't. So here's the thing. I don't say this much to you guys even, but I'm at the church where I have the most outspoken social justice pastor in Washington. LA has a lot of them, so it's not on the West Coast, but definitely in Washington. Like, when the Black Lives Matter stuff started happening, when Ferguson happened, the Seattle mayor came to talk to my pastor because he wanted him to get behind the movement to not see any of this happen in Washington. And we just had a guy that got shot by the police in the back. And I'll actually explain about that in a second because we declined doing the funeral at our church. But I guess you can only lose the status, he said, if you endorse a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
You can't lose it just for talking about politics. You can't lose it for saying that. You can't lose it for like reading out of Leviticus, about homosexuality or something like that. You can't talking about the biblical, like the biblical, your biblical interpretation or doctrine on the God ordained or created family unit. They can't shut you down for saying that. Now, if you tell all of the people in your congregation to vote no on a specific, technically the only way they could shut you down is if one of your church people went to them and said, hey, my pastor told me to vote for this. And then they still would have to get evidence. They would probably just give you a little, hey, don't do that again. But
go ahead. I think an issue that you're going to run into when we tell people that is we've seen the IRS used as like an intimidation or like against conservative groups. We've seen that in the last few years. So like that people say that might be true for these groups that are in the current administration's favor, but if you're what they consider hate speech, then they could be used as a weapon against you.
Well, and I think the funny thing is it's not necessarily about the current administration. I think what it comes down to is if a group is trying to say this is wrong, don't do it, they're more scared than if a group is trying to say this is okay, and we're not telling you to stop. We're telling you to keep your civil liberty and do this and do that.
Yeah.
Be who you want to be, and then you have another group that's like, no, this is wrong. And we're telling all of our people to vote against it.
It works both ways. Like if you had a different administration, like the exact opposite of the Obama administration, then the other groups would feel the same way. I
think even like the previous administration, there were issues with groups that were applying for the 501c3 status that were being like either slowly processed or denied, or like whether it's like this time it's conservative, but like last time it was like some left groups. So.
You guys are making a really good case for smaller government.
I think it's, we're not talking about it in a church because people don't want to talk about politics in the church.
Yeah.
A lot.
Why do you think that is, Jay?
It's like keep politics out of the church. And that's something that we've, ever since the abolitionists started. I mean, you look at when the abolitionists were preaching in churches and talking about slavery.
Yeah.
It was keep politics out of the church. I mean, that's what was said. I mean, these guys were booed off the stage, or off the podium, thrown things at, and I think we have to speak to these issues and not just ignore them. And that's what I feel like we're doing.
I applaud that, Jay, because there's a guy named Richard Allen who started the first black church, and he was a slave at the time. And they wouldn't allow, first of all, when they actually let them go to church, they had to sit up in the balcony away from all the white people. And they wouldn't allow them to preach, of course. They couldn't do communion together or anything like that. And what happened was Richard Allen went down and he wanted to pray on the actual altar. He didn't want to pray up in the balcony. He wanted to pray on the actual altar. And he tried to, and he was picked up. He was basically kicked out, and that day he took an anvil, which was a tool that they were using, the slaves were using to sharpen, knives or whatever, swords or whatever they were using it for, and he preached from it. And that was when they started trying to get Bibles into the hands of black people and trying to teach them, because they weren't taught to read. I mean, they were suppressed so much where they literally, and those type of things are what these type of movements are born out of. It's when a group of people is basically treated a different way just because of their skin color. I mean, when the chief of police of Seattle came to our church, I'm just being honest with you guys because I want to do my best to be transparent. But He brought a black guy with him that was a lower status than him, and he tried to have the black guy do all the talking because he knew my pastor. And the first thing my pastor did was say, he's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm a captain." He's like, "So who are you?" He's like, "I'm the chief." He's like, "So why am I talking to the captain?" And my pastor's just that kind of confrontational guy. He skips way over the playing around in the conversation. And he said to him, he said, "Why would you bring this guy? Is it just because he's black? You know, he's a black captain. You thought I would be nicer to him?" And then he told the chief of police, "If we're going to continue this conversation, the first thing I need you to admit and say out loud is that in your city, in Seattle, there are black people that are policed differently than white people for the same crime." And he admitted it. You know, the chief of police was like, "I don't like that's a fact, but I will admit that it's a fact. They are policed differently sometimes with the same crime, going the same speed, having the same amount of drugs." And so my screen died. This is weird.
You're still there.
I know I'm still here, but I can't see anything. Okay, there we go. So
Black screens matter.
Black screens.
Wow. The guy that got shot, his name was Shay. That got shot in Seattle a week and a half ago, and he got shot in the back. If you watch the video, it looks like he was reaching in the car for his gun, and the police shot him a couple times in his back. He ended up dying. And because we have the largest black church in Washington and we have the most outspoken pastor, they assumed that we would just jump all over this, and we would love the media frenzy that would come with it. We would have had the news would have been here. We would have had Black Lives Matter shirts in the congregation. People would have been protesting. And it was just an automatic assumption. Every pastor in the state assumed my pastor was going to do it. So the Black Ministerial Alliance from Seattle hit him up, and he said, "Let me get back to you." And he did his research. And I'm not going to, because I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I'll just say that Shay had a very sordid past. And the gun was his. The drugs that he had were his. And it was an informant that gave him up. The cops they surrounded him. They drew their weapons. He was standing outside of the car with his hands up. And they said, "Step back and get down on the ground." And instead, he leans down and reaches in his car. And so for my pastor, the thing that he told the Ministerial Alliance was, number one, no, I'm not doing it. And number two, you shouldn't do it either. He was like, you should stay away from this. It's not the case, you know, that's going to put. Some people get so caught up in these movements that they want to put Black Lives Matter on the map in their city. You know, they want to whatever I can do. Oh, somebody got shot. It must be wrong. And there was a march in Seattle, but if you would have asked any of those people what really happened with Shay, they didn't know. You know, they were misinformed. They were uninformed. And my pastor is too smart to get caught up in it. And it ended up being at the Ministerial Alliance listened to him and turned it down. And it ended up being at Casey Treat Christian Faith Center. It's like pretty much the largest church in Washington. His church is ridiculous, but big. It's a white guy from Spanaway, from down the way.
Is that Rocket's
they
church?
did it.
Do you know Rocket Man?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Is that his church?
Yeah. That's his church. At Rocket's church, and it worked out. The funeral was fine. There wasn't as much craziness. If it would have been done at our church, it would have became like this Black Lives Matter symbol, and it would have been on national news. And my pastor's not greedy for that kind of attention and that kind of platform, so he turned it down. And I think that's where some of us have to be smart. And JA, like you were talking about, and Taboo, like you were talking about, it's okay to say some of what's being done. Like, we have to get to a point where we can say that, where I can say some of, and not have to be like, I'm 100% behind Black Lives Matter or I'm 100% against it. Like, it's okay to say some of what's being done by the Black Lives Matter movement, like the educational piece, the pulling together, the non-violent protest and civil disobedience and those type of things, that's okay. Some of the other stuff is a little off the wall, and is building this, you know, this animosity in the younger generation of African Americans that don't feel like they have any power. So they're the ones that'll push over a car or light it on fire or break into a store, or cuss at someone just for being white, you know, or get in a fight at their school just because they're a mad young African American seeing all these other black kids getting shot, and they don't feel like they have any power whatsoever. So they're going to get in a fight. Black Lives Matter can if done well, give them an outlet. But it also, if not done well, and if just because we're looking at this website, I didn't even know that existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's people that may support the movement that have no idea that there's a website with guiding principles and all this kind of stuff. They wouldn't even, if you said, about like the lesbianism and all that kind of stuff they're talking about on there, like they probably would be like, what? I didn't even know it said that.
Yeah.
And so I just wish our nation would get to a place where we didn't have to be left or right.
Yeah.
And I understand that as Christians, yes, we are called to walk a straight and a narrow path. But I think sometimes we get confused thinking that the Democratic or Republican Party are on that path with us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be times when they're not. There's going to be times when I may say I'm an independent. I may say I'm a Republican and disagree with the Republican Party, or say I'm a Democrat and disagree with the Democratic Party. And people are so scared these days. It's like you can't even disagree with your own political party anymore. It's I don't know.
I have some thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
If you guys don't mind. I feel like there's people that I know that there's people that make a living, but I feel like there's a lot of people and organizations that thrive off of conflict and division. It's where people's livelihoods come from. Politicians, but also leaders of movements. Not necessarily Black Lives Matter. I don't know enough about the leaders of that movement.
I don't think they profit yet.
Yeah. But there's people that make their livelihood off of keeping people divided. And I think the left-right dichotomy is not accurate enough to describe people. And I think we talked about this a little bit last week. I feel like a better way to look at people politically or describe people is authoritarian versus libertarian. And just to take the video game analogy we used last week, there's people on the left side of the spectrum that are authoritarian that would tell you can't play this game because it doesn't have enough female protagonist representation. And there's people on the right side, authoritarians, that would say you can't play this game because it's too much violence and it breeds violence in the culture. And I think there's a lot of people that are like myself that are more libertarian, and I don't want to tell you what games to play. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I just want you to be who you are. I want people to leave me alone. So the left-right thing, I think, is kind of maybe not designed, but maybe it's evolved into just a way to keep me against you and you against me, so that you keep voting for this guy and I keep voting for this guy and these people, and they just keep profiting off of our division, where I think we have more in common than we have different.
I think it's also education. It's like people don't think deeply about things. It's like either one way or the other. Like it's multiple. Yeah. I know, like growing up, we had a lot of multiple choice tests, not a lot of essay exams. So, like if there's option A and option B, you got to choose one of them. So there's not like room to. Well, this is what I think about A and B and why this one is great and this one isn't great. And like people don't get the chance to like really have opinion as much as they kind of shape their opinion to A or B because there's no other options.
Yeah,
exactly.
That is, you're right.
But who's giving you the options? Yeah. You know what I mean? Exactly. Who's saying choose between A and B?
Yeah.
The people that want you to be divided.
Yeah.
But we don't have a choice. It's funny that our nation is like, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like everyone is anti-Trump. Like, I know that there's some.
Where are the voters?
But for some, but I'm saying, if it seems like so many people are anti-Trump, I mean, I'm wondering how he's like having these landslide victories. And
same here. I'm in Georgia, man.
We're all wondering. I
think it's honestly what you said. It's honestly what you said, Taboo. It's like people are like, well, I gotta go with the Republican frontrunner, and that's in their mind. It's almost like, and I won't say a name, but someone that is in our group meet that said, I'm not going to vote because who I want to win, I know that they're not going to be a front runner or they're not going to win. And that makes things really difficult. My pastor said today to the church, he had everyone stand that was over 18, and he said, sit down if you're registered to vote, which was really embarrassing for a few people because there was like 5 people standing up in the first service, and they just had to stand there while he's lecturing us on voting. But what he said, which is so true, it's sad and it shouldn't be this way. But he said, if you don't give them money or vote, you're basically you don't exist to politicians at the level of presidency, especially. If you don't vote at all, now you could vote for the other guy, but if you don't vote at all and you don't give any money to a campaign, you're pretty much not an American almost. You almost are not really an American because you don't matter to them. They don't care about your opinion. You could say whatever. You could say Black Lives Matter, If you can't vote and you don't vote, and historically African Americans, they voted in record numbers for Barack Obama, but it's like if historically they don't vote, which is why I think one of the reasons why he got victory is because it was this whole group of people that the Republican Party was not targeting because they didn't think they were voters. But then they started voting, and it's like, oh crap, they're voting. And you're gonna see. I'll tell you guys the truth. You're gonna see another record number of African American voters, but they are a constituency now that people aim for. You look at Bernie Sanders, you look at Hillary Clinton, like they're who likes the black people more and who's better for black people, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders? And it's like the black community in mass is like no Trump, you know. But when it comes to those two candidates, there's actually a debate that goes on in the community, and sometimes it feels like, well, if you go to this church, you better vote for Hillary. If you go to this church, you better vote for Bernie. It's frustrating, to be honest with you guys. It is. And as an African American who is a middle person, is a person that sometimes sides with the wisdom of the Republicans and sometimes sides with the wisdom of the Democrats, I feel like I can't say that out loud. I feel like even at my own church, I can't tell people that, you know, I think sometimes we may get a little too, I don't want to say self-righteous, but I'll say that we may get a little too righteous and biblical about something that isn't biblical, you know, because we take a biblical term or we take something that's in the Bible that it says, and then we attribute it to, but we're not in a theocracy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so sometimes we have to be careful, you know, that we're not being too authoritarian, like you said, Taboo.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we're at 2 hours, and I don't want to cut us off, but where do we go from here? I mean, you know what I love about us is that by having you guys as friends, I live in a community that probably has, I grew up in Chicago where a third of my friends were black, third Hispanic. I live in a small town now, and probably the community has less than 5% that are black. I have one black guy that comes to two black guys that come to my church, you know, but I don't get that perspective that's different than where I am. And that's why I love this chat, the chat that we have, this group me chat, because I get to hear your guys' perspectives. And I want to put that out there. You know, I don't want to say you need a black friend if you're white, you know, but we segregate. We keep segregated. Our churches are segregated, you know, and I tell you what, we're missing out on walking in somebody else's shoes and seeing the other side of things and their perspective. Man, Ocho, when you were sharing some things that happened to you in your past with things and everything like that, man, that was really good insight for me, and it changed how I viewed some things. And unfortunately, I don't know how much that happens today. I don't know if it's just a small town person, you know, speaking here, but I appreciate that. And I want to encourage everybody to get a black friend. All right. if you're a white guy.
Oh, yeah, I had some friends I was playing with on Xbox, and they're like, I'm not racist. I have a black friend on Xbox. I was like, yes.
And that's another thing, too. Something I want to go back to. If you watch the movie, have you guys seen the movie Woodlawn?
No, not yet.
Go see it, because it just reminded me how recent segregation was.
Yeah.
And
I'm actually looking at Wikipedia right now, and see, the 13th Amendment, 1975, abolished slavery. 1968, U.S. citizenship was granted to former slaves. So 1968, that's what?
A
little over 200, almost 200.
I don't think we understand that my grandmother was on the tail end of segregation. My great grandma, who I met and got to, you know, I spent time with her. She was a great lady. You know, she used different. She had to eat at a different counter, and she had to sit in a different section of the bus. And we forget, like, we think like Martin Luther King would be, you know, 200 years old if he was alive right now, but it's like he died at 65. So it's like I think we just forget, like you said, Jay, we forget how recently, and I'll tell you why we forget, is because the last 50 years, humanity has advanced technologically more than in the previous, like, 2000. And so with all those advancements, we've sped up so fast where sometimes people forget. When I was 15, I didn't have no cell phone. I didn't have Twitter. There was no
That
Facebook.
pager.
Like, and that was just 20 years ago. Like, so that's how much the world. You think about it, in 20 years, we've gone from maybe 2% of the world having cell phones to where in certain places in Asia, 85% of their citizens that are over 15 have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're saying that America is going to get to 80% within the next, I think it's by, what is this, 2016?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was by 2020 that 80% of people over the age of 15 will have a cell phone. And so, and once the older generation dies off that doesn't have cell phones, that's when it's going to take this leap to being like 80%.
Yeah.
And because of that, those advancements, we think like segregation was, oh, that was, way back in the day. That was, and it's like, okay, if we were segregated that recently within the last 60 years, well, then you have to understand there's going to be some civil unrest. We're getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. And if you ask the question, Jay, of what's next, what I'm doing, and I don't want to say it's against my pastor's wishes because I wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. I'm intentionally building and maintaining relationships with predominantly white churches. Intentionally. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to churches where I know they don't agree with my pastor's preaching and his teaching on certain subjects, and they don't agree with his as outspoken as he is. They'll never invite him to preach. But what I'm saying is I go to them and say, okay, look, I'm a youth pastor. You're a youth pastor. Don't worry about our pastors and the fact that they don't get along because of their political views. Mm-hmm. One of the pastors locally down the street from here came over and basically told my pastor in his own office that he said something racially negative about Barack Obama. And it wasn't he's a bad president. It was something about him being black. And everyone in the building could hear my pastor yelling in the office. And they broke the relationship for like almost 2 years because of that. And we used to get together with that church. And so what I did is I intentionally went over and met their youth pastor and tried to form relationships. And I've decided that restoring ecumenical societies is the best way to move forward as a country. I've just made the decision that, look, the church has to prove that we are who we say we are.
Yeah.
We have to prove that we have the patience of Jesus where he's on a cross saying, forgive them for the people that just killed him. And when he got up from the dead, he didn't go back to the Pharisees. He didn't go back to the people that had killed him and beat him and hit him with cat o' nine tails and prove to them, hey, guess what? That was all a waste of time. You spit on me. You punched me. You put a crown of thorn on my head. He went straight to his disciples and started teaching and told them what to do next. And so I think sometimes we have to shrink ourselves and not think we're so big and high and mighty. And for anybody that doesn't know what ecumenical is, it's basically like not interfaith, but interdenominational collaboration. And I'm saddened, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm saddened at the effect on the body of Christ that all of this is having. Because it's almost like Jesus' hand is over there chilling and his body's over here because a part of his body is like, I don't want anything to do with that hand because they believe in this. And I'll tell you what, even if let's say there's a church that's like, I don't think abortion is bad, and I'm like, well, it's murder, and I could say all that stuff. How do you believe that we receive salvation? And they'll tell me, through Jesus Christ and him alone. Maybe they'll quote Romans 9:9-10. If I confess with my mouth, believe in my heart. And I'll say, okay, we can be brothers. We can talk about this doctrine. We can sit down and have a peaceful, it's what we're doing that is what needs to be next for our country. Is the church has to do stuff like this. We have to have these conversations with people that are like-minded and on the main thing, but maybe on the fringe secondary stuff, we might disagree. Yeah. That's kind of my opinion is that, and we can't get so set in our way. There's only one God. So there's only one being that exists that's always right. The rest of us, we're wrong a lot and we don't even know it. We get up on our high horse about something that God may literally be from heaven saying, shut up. Yeah. Give it 10 more years. There were people preaching about how bad freeing the slaves was. It was from the pulpit. There were people preaching that freeing slaves was a mistake and that the Holy Spirit told me that I need to keep my slaves, And so now we're in a position where we've learned that that's not right. Contextually, we've advanced. And so we don't go and quote, slaves obey your masters in the Lord. We're not quoting that as a way to have slavery come back anymore. But that was well quoted back in the day when there was slaves. So
yeah.
I just think collaboration, and I mean, everybody watching YouTube on the video or live, don't be afraid. Like, go to a black church. Just do it. Just find a black church in your town or one that's near you where you know you're going to be uncomfortable, and go there. Yeah. My pastor always says that black people have always had to live uncomfortably because when we started going into the workforce, we were always outnumbered. That was always the case. And even when I went to Bible college, I was the only black student in my class and the class behind me. And it doesn't bother me because I just have had to suck it up. When I was a kid, I learned and I dealt with racism. But if I was white right now, I would go to a black church. I would just visit it, and it would feel weird, and I would stand out, and they might say stuff that might make me cringe a little. But you have to become comfortable with people that don't agree with you on everything, or we'll never unite, and we're going to be that house divided that falls.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see that happen.
So if you're a white guy, get a black friend. If you're a white guy, go to a black church. If you're a black guy,
get a white friend.
If you're a black guy, you guys can agree or disagree with me. Go do a ride along with a police officer.
That would be a good idea. Yeah.
Make some inroads there.
Yeah. Agreed, Jay.
Another thing too,
a voluntary ride along.
Voluntary.
Yeah, we don't want to do the other ride along.
Right. Just another thing to piggyback off what Kingdom said about getting smaller. I'm reading a book called In Her Own Words, and it's about a woman named Madam C.J. Walker. And I've asked a lot of people if they know who she is, and I had never heard of her until earlier this year. But a lot of people don't. But she was the first freed person in her household. Like, she had two siblings that were born during slavery. So she was born right after the Civil War, and she lived in Louisiana. And all of a sudden, you had these black men who could vote in Louisiana, and a lot of white men in Louisiana didn't like it because now they were outnumbered. So they started killing black men and killing families. They killed all kinds of black people just because they were black and also because they could vote. So she winds up in St. Louis, finds refuge in St. Louis, which is a progressive town. There's a lot of black barbers and businesses that had sprung up. But she was going to a church there. And what the churches in that community did as a response to all of these killings just south of them on the Mississippi was they created a day called Lamentation Day. And I'd never heard of this before, and it blew my mind. And in the response to all those killings, they created this day called Lamentation Day where they set it aside for prayer and fasting. And it's we could probably talk about all the practical ways to make changes in this world, but none of them my belief is that none of them would be as impactful as the direction you get from prayer and fasting.
Preach.
And I just thought that was so powerful. I read that line and I was like, oh my God. And I just circled it and I was like, this is what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
That we need to be uniting, like Anthony said. And
will the church do that?
Yeah, I'll do it.
We have to.
We do.
We're at that point. It's not really about a will we. It's we have to. Or I said this in a sermon recently, but I talked about how if I was a non-believer right now, I would be so confused by the different messages I would get from different churches. If I went to the three churches that all have over 1,000 members on the block of 108th Avenue where I'm at, or let's say four of them, because there's four pretty large churches on this street in Kent, Washington, and we're talking about within 3 miles of each other. Our doctrines are different. What we say about what's going on in America is different. Whether or not we talk about what's going on in America is different. And it sometimes can sound like, wait a minute, what's going on? But I'll say this, and I said this in a previous, I said this recently, is you know that statement people say the most divided time of the week is Sunday morning at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like that's the most divided time. You know, that's when everybody's segregated. The reality is that's actually the most united time for the church. Because when I'm praying, someone else across the world is praying. Like that's the one day when the entire body of Christ is lifting up Jesus. And I think sometimes we forget about that. We forget about the unity that we actually have. We put aside all of the politics and all of this stuff to worship the same God. And sometimes we get convinced that if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, you believe in a different God than me. I'll say from the pulpit in my church, if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, I disagree with your politics, but I love the same Jesus you do. And you're going to worship to the same worship song I'm about to say, because the worship song doesn't sing about being a Democrat or a Republican or Trump or abortion or gay rights or legalization of marijuana. Like, it doesn't say any of that. You know, we don't. If you guys go to a church where your worship songs talk about that kind of stuff, let me hear that, because I'd love to hear what that was like. But we worship Jesus, and if we're worshiping Jesus, we have the greatest common ground that humanity's ever been offered: salvation. So I think, Jay, to your point, we have to do what we're doing right now. We have to, and I'll tell you that I hate to say this, but a large portion of the onus is on, I'll just say those in power, which isn't always white Americans, because, you know, right now there's a black dude in the White House, but it's like those in power and those that have wealth have to be the ones to make some of those steps, because everybody listens to them.
It's true.
All right. Well, hey, anybody got anything else? Anything in the chat? Any kind of questions for us?
I was gonna say, like, the jersey I'm wearing, it's from Ghana, and it's Ghana Independence Day. Speaking of like history, and that's a country that's only 59 years old.
Wow.
So, like, yeah, it's like around the same time that, let's see, I think it was 1964 when they got rid of the poll tax for voting in the United States. So that was basically the last kind of restrictions on, like, that was one of the things that they did to keep, like, black people and women from voting, was like to have poll taxes and literacy tests and things like that. So they got rid of that with an amendment. And so that was 1964. And I think, was it 1964. But yeah, like, Ghana as a country was reached its independence in 19, well, it was 59 years ago.
I can't do the
my wife. Yeah. 60.
I think Jay said it really well. Jay, you've always been honest about not seeing things from our perspective, but you can see how it could be wrong. Like, you can see and you can say, well, yeah, some of the stuff I'm seeing is definitely not right. You know, regardless of, even if it's the exception, of course. All of these police brutality things are the exception. There are some practices that we can put in place to prevent those things from happening. But you look at it and say, okay, that is definitely an injustice, but I don't receive it the same as you do. And that's a starting point, is to accept the fact that we have different perspectives and we see things differently. Like, if we can't say that and we act like every human has to see everything the same, that's I want to say ignorance, but I mean, it's just, it's ignorance.
And unfortunately, it seems like our country is moving that direction, though, more and more. That's the problem.
Even with video games, it's like you can't be a middle ground person with, like, your perspective on video games.
Yeah,
people
just went
value
full circle. Bam! That is so true, man. You cannot love Call of Duty and Destiny.
Right. You can't love Fate and Optic either.
Yeah.
No. You gotta be either or.
Which I understand that. Green.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I got. You guys got anything else?
No, it's a good show. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being bold enough to have this as a topic. I'm interested to see your YouTube comments when you post it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you being bold enough to say, I'm going to get in a room full of guys and we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. Like,
Yeah.
most people, they stay as far away from that topic as they can, especially in the church.
I tell you what, when I just put the initial video up, I don't know if you got anything on it, Taboo, but I had people telling me they're unsubscribing, and I very rarely delete comments, but when they're just they don't contribute anything, I deleted them, and I deleted so many comments on that, and I left the ones that were kind of mild, and there weren't a whole lot of comments, but this is an issue that, man, it's so charged.
I do have something I can close with.
Yeah.
There's a guy that preached this sermon called Boldness Under Threat. Definitely a good sermon to watch. I don't know if you guys would agree with all of his doctrine, because I don't think I did on everything. Very well, unless you guys are like really strong Calvinists, that's just what he is. And so, but one of the things he said in there was, he said he taught a series. He had a 500-member church plant that he did. And he decided to teach I think it was a 5-week series on diversity from the Bible. And I want to find these sermons, because he said he taught a biblical theology of diversity. And over the course of that 5 weeks, 150 people left his church forever. And he was assuming that teaching diversity would actually make the church appreciate diversity more. But one of the things that we're learning is, like, my church is pretty much probably 88% black. If we had 200, let's say, Asian Americans come into our church, it would change the church. And if a white church that had 500 people had 500 black people come in and they became one church, it would change the church to the point where culturally they wouldn't know what to do. And like you said about segregation, we've gotten so far. We're not that far away from it, so we still have such individualistic cultures where we're kind of scared to clash and mix. And what you're doing right now is kind of like what that guy said. You're deciding to talk about a topic that is going to rub some of your subscribers the wrong way. You're probably going to lose some subscribers, but that's a risk worth taking, in my opinion. So again, I appreciate you taking it, because I don't see any black commentators asking to talk about this type of a topic, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What are your church people? Do they know you do this?
They do, yeah. I don't think any of them watch my channel, though.
I'd be interested, like, if I know you had some weird things when they found out you were like a Call of Duty commentator, like your elders and stuff. But I would be interested to see if they ever saw this, what they would like. What comments they would have for you. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I'll probably put it on Facebook, so we'll see.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, KS, thanks for being on the show.
Yes,
really
no
appreciate it.
Thank you.
You are welcome anytime, and I mean that. Ocho, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Always appreciate your input and everything like that. Taboo, thanks for doing all the things behind the scenes and not putting me down too much. Knocking me. Really appreciate that. Thanks to everybody in the chat, man. We got into a little bit of a rough place there for a minute, but otherwise very respectful, and we appreciate that. And let us know, though, if you're watching this video later, what you guys think about this topic. Please keep the chat, though, or the comments civil, and try to learn from each other and see other people's points of view and see what you can learn from other people. Nobody in here wants to see America divided. Nobody in here wants to see people killed. Nobody in here wants to see, the calling for executing cops or anything like that. And unfortunately, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But we need to stand up to that. And but that's all I've got. Man, thanks again. As always, though, take care and God bless.
God bless.
Don't cut me off.